while we're talking about all these issues, on the flip side, you've got people who are dying to be on camera in our culture. And our culture has become such that there's a reality show for everyone. Yes. And so it's probably very difficult to make the argument that we want all these civil liberties and protections against this when we live in a culture in which everyone is basically overexposed in so many ways. And every time we sneeze, we put it on Facebook, you know? And so how do we even fight that battle in this culture?
Well, that was going to be my next comment was most of the people that are complaining about the surveillance cameras, and they can't wait to get home to put themselves out to people they don't even know.
You're right.
On the internet.
You're absolutely
the internet itself is just huge.
Yeah.
Things show up on YouTube before before they're even before an incident is even complete.
Yeah, I mean, this is actually a very common issue in my circle of friends. And I'm sure you guys have probably seen this before. You go to an event and you're there, and then the next thing you know, your pictures of you are on Facebook. I've had people call me and say, "Oh, I didn't know that you went to this event." And I'm thinking, how in the world did you know that I was even there? And they tell me that they saw my picture on Facebook. And so, I mean, you know, and I'm thinking, man, maybe I should start suing some people, you know, because the reality is that we don't live in a world where privacy really is, I think, respected as much given the reality of the technology that we live in.
Mm-hmm.
And this will probably make the battle that you're talking about much more difficult.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it will. So the other thing I'm interested in actually on this question is this, because you mentioned the blue light camera.
Yes.
And you mentioned what happens to the neighborhoods. I have always, as I've driven around the city of Chicago, you know, thought about, man, how do they, you know, obviously they pick those cameras based on the crime in the communities. I'm assuming that's obviously the correct on that. And then also, how does that impact the community? Does it help the community? You said that the insurance rates go up, the property probably goes down at that point as well. I'd like to speak to that because I think that's a really, it's a very important issue to think about.
Rick, do you know how they choose?
Well, sometimes they come to the police and they'll use our statistics, and people will actually ask for them.
Sure.
We'll have aldermen that will come in. We've had merchants, local chambers of commerce that will request them in certain areas. And those are generally for preventative measures, as I gave the example of a bus stop in a very nice location where two different high schools have to transfer, and you'll get rival gangs on opposite sides of the street going in different directions, but they're in such close proximity. This makes it much easier to monitor them, and if things start to develop, then you can take the appropriate measures to prevent a lot of the issues and get some kids home safely.
So what you're saying is kind of what we were talking about before. It's not just the authorities, if you will, that are pushing this, but the people are asking for it because of the perception that it makes them safer. And that, you know, that's reality. I mean, imagine, I was just thinking about this, as a professor, imagine if we had cameras in our classroom for safety issues.
I'm not opposed to having cameras in a classroom.
I think I am.
You think you're opposed to that? I'm not opposed
I don't think
to
they
that.
would be used for safety issues. Okay, I think it's so rare
It would turn
where
to
we teach
evaluation,
that a safety issue occurs in a classroom. It would be, to me, an outrageous waste of taxpayer money. I could see it being used to observe teachers to see if they are, you know, following somebody's standards.
Yeah, but Linda, what about the person that says, yeah, but violence happens on campuses? And there are things
We have cameras everywhere on our campus, but we don't have them in the classrooms, and we don't have them in the restrooms, and we don't have them in the faculty offices. And I hope they're not going to start putting them in those areas.
Yeah. Well, there'd definitely they'd have a fight on their hands. Right? Yeah, absolutely. So, so we know that London is doing this. And I know that obviously I've read that New York obviously is increasing. I mean, pretty much every major city in the world.
Not all. I mean, yeah,
Are
not
there
all.
cities?
But I mean, Detroit has decided not to pursue it
Okay.
for financial reasons, and they don't see the payoff statistically. Oakland, California, the same, and there was one other city that isn't. Chicago, as far as I know, leads the United States, but it could be that New York's ahead of us. But we're very high up there.
Right.
I know New Orleans is really pursuing this for some reason. They're very interested in it.
I wonder why Detroit made that decision. You said financially they think the payoff is not there.
Because the research that's been done thus far, which is very limited, is not showing a prevention too much of a prevention angle. Maybe a little bit with property crimes. If you have, you know, a observation, cameras observing a parking lot to keep people from smashing windows, so on and so forth. But they find that bright lights are just as effective, if not more effective, for property crime.
Actually, you bring a very good point, and I'd like to actually ask you this question, Richard, because of your background with law enforcement. If not cameras, then what?
Absolutely lighting.
Okay.
Absolutely lighting at night. And if in the daytime, I think you need more police officers in certain areas. They need to see the police. They need to see the police out there. And at night, lighting is, you know, one of the greatest tools. It is proven to be a deterrent.
Okay. That's a very, very important piece of information.
The mayor, several years back, when we brought some issues to him relative to lighting problems in the summertime, we have the biggest problem with lighting because what? The trees. They get full, they block the street lights. They block the street lights. We have plenty of street lights. We have alley lights, street lights, but so they have to get some of the tree trimming services out there to, you need support from other city agencies. It's not just the police department that can do some of these things. You have a lot of different agencies that have to be involved in these sorts of things.
So beyond law enforcement, actually that's a very, very good point, one I hadn't thought about, and that we ought to continue pursuing those things. And it seems like a very simple solution. But we also know in reality that crime has a lot to do with issues beyond law enforcement. And I think that as we think about these issues of crime, we also have to think in a holistic way and think about issues of unemployment. We've got to think about issues of services and equality of services and that sort of thing. And there are no simple answers to any of these questions, but I think all of these together, it seems like we can start to do these things. In the city of Chicago, it's funny because we always have these debates about one or two issues, but in reality, there's so many more, aren't there?
There are. I just want to comment the blue light cameras that are in the seemingly depressed communities of Chicago. Maybe they didn't have to be so huge. They're like large trash cans on poles out there. There are cameras that are smaller that maybe they can put a sign up. You know, there are signs, you're being watched or you're being taped. In elevators, you see the signs, you're being watched, but you look for the camera and you don't see it.
So you think, because I hear the argument about deterrence, so you think that having the larger cameras does not serve for deterrence but serves for some other purpose potentially? Or
yes and no, because if a crime is going to be committed and they're where the camera is there, then they just move out of the range of the camera.
Sure, okay, cool. Well, I mean, we have, America, we have very real problems with crime. And there is a perception in a variety of countries that America is a place where random violence just happens all the time. And in truth, there's a lot of truth in that. And so we have to figure out something. I think the cameras, at least in my opinion, may be a small part of the larger fight. And for that reason, I probably think that they probably have a role. But as someone said earlier, this panacea idea is just a myth. And that's typically how we deal with our political issues. So.
I can give you an example.
Sure.
This summer I was at a CTA station and I observed a crime take place. I called the police, but they didn't arrive in time. And I later contacted an investigator. They pulled the videotape of the area at the time that I was there, and they didn't know who I was or what I looked like. They called me back and they said, "Are you the person who's wearing this shirt? You have a ponytail, you're standing here?" And I said, "Yeah, that's me." Wow. So they were able to see the whole scene of the CTA station. Sure. And they pursued an investigation from that point forward. I was kind of impressed that they had that ability and they had that kind of accuracy with the videotape. And I think that the officer I was talking to was impressed also, that he got what he,
he surprised
that he
himself,
got what he saw. Yeah, that's what I think.
Gotcha.
Do you know how long they keep the tapes?
I'm not exactly sure. Generally, for the pod cameras, I believe it's 30 days, and then unless there's something that For example, there was an incident and you might have some evidentiary value or something like that, then those tapes are saved, they're marked, and as long as that investigation is current, that's held, that's archived. That's archived, but they don't keep these tapes of routine actions on the streets for a real extended period of time.
So I think overall, for you in criminal justice, overall you would say that they are effective, at least on some level, at helping in terms of investigation, at least we know for sure.
Yeah, they're effective, and again, I stress they're a tool. It's one of many different tools that the police department or an investigator, a follow-up investigator, can use, and the more tools they have at their disposal, I think the better. The question is, then it becomes an ethical issue on how they use them.
Okay, great. Well, let's take a couple final thoughts from you guys. So I guess in summary, if you had to wrap up all of your thoughts on this issue, I'd like to hear overall what you think about the security camera issue. So would you like to start, Pamela?
Sure, I'll start. You know what, I actually pulled a scripture from the Bible.
Okay.
Proverbs 26:1, the wicked flee when no one pursues them. So if you're not doing anything that you shouldn't be doing, then you shouldn't be running.
Gotcha.
But the righteous, they're as bold as a lion. So the people who have nothing to hide, then the cameras are not an issue.
Excellent. And I love the quote, I love the Bible, so that's good. Very good, yes.
It's very well put. Again, I'm in favor of cameras. I'd like to see more of them. I'd like to see more of the advanced technology that is available out there be put into use, and I'd like to see a little better training on the end of law enforcement and the people that are using these cameras so that we do get the maximum benefit and the full potential out of them.
Yeah, training is an issue, you're saying?
I think so.
Okay.
I have trouble with this new smartphone that I bought.
let
alone if they sat me
$1,000
down
camera.
and said, okay, now here's the latest model of surveillance camera, and you're going to monitor this. And I think, yeah, the training has to go hand in hand with that, and we need to train people a little bit better so that we get the full potential out of it, not just how to use it, but how do we maximize and get the best bang for our dollar that you were talking about.
You make an excellent point. In some ways, our technology is moving faster than our ability to cope with it and our ability to maximize its usage. And that could have some potentially negative effects. So, go ahead.
I think we're at the beginning of the technology that will be used with these cameras, and in the future, I think we'll be in a better place, because right now these cameras are so dependent upon human intervention, monitoring. Where is the camera directed? And the camera is so much better if it's focused on people, while something is occurring, and there's a limited manpower. So
Awesome.
we can't devote that many people to the cameras. There are so many cameras, they're just not being observed. Cool. So. But the next generation is going to be computer software technology that's going to be able to do it for us. Okay. And as that gets better and can monitor, and then it'll pick up on something that's happening, and then it could direct it to a human observer. So when we get to that point, I think we'll see better results.
Thank you all so much for coming.
Thank you.
This is a good conversation. I hope that we go further in this and that we do deal with the issue of crime. It's important, and whether it's cameras or whatever else we have to do, I do hope that we make some headway in this, so thank you all so much.
Thank
Thank you.
While views from and on security cameras vary wildly, their funding and operation derives from the government we elect. No matter your views on cameras, a well-functioning democracy requires a watchful eye from the people and for the people. Thank you for watching The Professors.